And I say, the Lord's speaking to us. Can we hear? But it just seems like nobody hears. Nobody listens. You know, it was their time to go, and it's sad. It's just sad. The wages of sin is death. A young man, Alejandro Corona from Pedernales, we didn't know him before, but we were coming home from German church service, and there's this man out there waving at us, trying to get us stopped. And should we keep going or shouldn't we? Well, let's keep going. I mean, might be kidnappers. No, let's stop. He might need something. Yeah, he needs help, so we stop. And he needs gasoline. And I'm dumb enough to ask him what he wants with gasoline that time of the night, on the weekend. Well, he's going to dance in La Junta. I said, don't do that. I said, I'd like to help you with gasoline, but I says, not for you to go to the dance. I says, too many young people are losing their lives. It's the way I said, you should be at home right now. 10 o'clock at night? What are you doing out here? Yeah, he says, I know. He said, anyway, well, he had just taken a big tumble in the ravine because he was trying to run after us, and he didn't realize there was a ditch there, and he fell in there, and he was all shook up, just all shook up. I thought he was half drunk. I'm not real sure what. Anyhow, the reason I'm telling this story is because I had an opportunity to witness to him, and I did some. I don't know how much. But I remember telling him to go home, and he says, and he thought that he could help us if he'd say he was Manuela Frias' cousin. Manuela Frias comes to church at our place, and he's not cousin, nephew. I'm Manuela Frias' nephew. I thought maybe he could get some gas. Well, we gave him some gas then, and I told him, go on home. Well, I saw the truck heading the wrong direction. I know he lived the other way, but anyhow, we found out a week later this young man helped make a roadblock between Rancho de Santiago and Pedernales because they needed some money. And then they decided they had to eliminate their victims. The boy told me, he says he's going to turn his life around. I remember him telling me that night, he's going to turn his life around. He said, I tell my mom that I got to quit this. I'm going to turn my life around. I'm going to come to your church. Well, before he come to our church, he was one of the robbers in this roadblock early in the morning. And they successfully got the money off their victims, but then what they disagreed on is whether they were going to eliminate these victims or not, because they'd tell on them. There was too much alcohol around there, I guess, and they weren't thinking rationally. They were going to stuff them all in that car and burn them. And this Corona, the one we witnessed to, Alejandro Corona's name, he pled for the victims. And then they got into this argument. That's what the witnesses say. They got in this argument, the robbers did, about whether they're going to burn these victims or not. They were going to pour gasoline over the car and start on fire. Well, while they were arguing, their victims got away. Who do you think gave their life for these four that got away? Alejandro Corona ended up in the car. They burned him. He pled for these four friends, and they killed him. It's a noble way to die. But the wages of sin is death. Did Alejandro go to a Christless grave? I have a few more here. I didn't realize I was going to take that long. It's too long. It's terrible. But there's one that I have to tell you about. My wife and I, it was another hay deal. We went to Santo Tomas, about 30 miles away. I wanted my wife to go with me. It's a good way when we're busy, we can be together. I said, let's go look at this hay over here. Got a call from over there. And we met, for the first time we met, Manuel Zamarron. My wife said it was in May of 2008. Manuel, right away, I knew he was an interesting man. And I wanted to see his haystack. But it was sort of a mystery from the very beginning. As soon as we pulled up this place, somebody comes over and peeks out the curtain like that, and it goes back shut. Well, that's a little different, Our Mexican friends, they pop out, and they want to shake hands right away and all, but someone was checking on us. But pretty soon he came out, and we talked a little bit, and he kept kind of looking around, and he said, maybe you want to drive over there? Sure, yeah, I'll drive over there. So we went over there. He got in a little minivan with us, and we headed over there. And everywhere we went, it looked like the man was afraid some long rattlesnake was going to jump out and get him. I didn't know what was wrong with this man. We'd go by this dry wash, and he'd look down the dry wash. And we might buy some old ruins, and he was looking at the ruins, what? Well, this is a nervous man. Well, yeah. So we went over there and we talked about the hay. And, this man started opening up. And he says, a lot of people don't know, but he says, I just got free. I was kidnapped. I was up on that mountain, way over there, that blue peak. I was up on that mountain for 15 days. Oh, he said, terrible experience. I said, oh, anyway, and he started telling us, but he didn't say a whole lot. But see, we had 4 loads of hay to haul. So you can imagine, he helped us haul, he helped us load each load. And we talked, and we talked. And we talked, and I told him, I says, Manuel, you know what you need? You just simply need to give your life to the Lord. And then your life would be in his hands. And if they get you, it's in the Lord's hands. And we had this beautiful opportunity to witness to this man, and he was listening. And one time when we were strapping down the load, he said, he said, I think that'd be beautiful. And I said, what? And he says, for me to be able to give my life to the Lord like you boys do. It was Randall and I that was together that day, I think. Next load, we go over there and we're talking some more. Got to the bottom of the haystack. Pick up a bale and a rattlesnake. Wasn't hard to get rid of it. Out come a pistol and bang, thing's dead. What do you think the conversation turned to after that? We started talking about giving our life to the Lord and about non-resistance. He says, well, he says, I can carry this pistol. He said, anyway, he had this thing in his pocket. We didn't know it. But here's a man. He had a reason for being jittery like that. That's part of the story. I can't tell you. I don't have time. But he had a reason. They was coming back. He was afraid they were. He had identified one of the fellas. And one of the fellas got wounded in a skirmish in Chihuahua, and they called him in there and he identified him. He was one of his kidnappers. He was scared. He had a reason to be. I said, Manuel, I said, please. By that time, we're good friends. I said, Christ said that he that takes sword will perish with the sword. And we witnessed to him again. And, he says, I believe that's right. I said, what are you going to gain? What would you do with that pistol? Well, obviously, he had it to kill any aggressor. I said, what would you gain by that? Could you live with yourself? Could you imagine you killing? I said, it'd be worse than what it is now. Yeah, he agreed. I said, but think about that man. You would be sending him into eternity without Christ, and you wouldn't be ready to meet the Lord yourself. Some good news. The next time I went without Randall. I don't remember who was with me, but he told me, he says, I'm going to church, and he says, I'm not carrying a pistol anymore. He says, I want to come over and visit you folks. I said, good, that's wonderful. And I called Randall, and I told him, I said, guess what? He said, well, I don't know. And I said, it's about Manuel. And he said, did he give his heart to the Lord? And I said, no, but he's coming. Well, some time went on, and the next hay season come. May of 2009, I was down there again, and he had some hay for sale. The reason he had hay for sale is because he had to sell 400 head of cattle his family had to sell 400 head of cattle to get him back. We were down there in May, and it seemed like the same man. He had calmed down. He seemed like, oh, I tell you what, this man's coming. My son Michael was with me. For some reason, it just seemed like I don't know. I don't remember witnessing to him that day, but we drove around a little bit together there, and I left him off again. We had a few words on Friday. Okay? On Monday morning, I get word from his compadre that, hey, Nathan, your good friend Manuel, he died on Sunday. What is happening? I talked to him on Friday, and he's dead on Sunday, but I have this hope that, maybe he made it. So I go over there. He said it was in an accident, terrible accident. But things don't line up. I go over there, and we go there, I wasn't sure where to go. I saw, well, they're already at the church, so I go to the church. And who's in the casket? A young man. It wasn't Manuel Salmerón. Well, I said, this must be the wrong fella. Yeah, he got shot in La Junta on Sunday. Okay, so I go over to his house, and he's not